All right, well, let's finish it up with the Clemson Tigers, the top team as ranked by the Jimmies and the Joes, and one of my personal picks to be a national championship favorite. This is the year for Dabo. I think this is the year that Clemson returns to the fore, that Cade Klubnik gets to show the country why he maybe is the top quarterback selected in the NFL draft next season. It feels like it's all coming together for Clemson, and they've restocked on a lot of talent. The offense looks like it's going to be extremely dangerous. I think the running game with maybe a true freshman in Gideon Davidson could be electric. And then the defense is just so overloaded with talent. It's hard to bet against them. It feels like Clemson to me is head and shoulders above every other team in the ACC. Fair or foul?
Absolutely fair. And they built the reputation as a program to where we can sit there and look at a 9.5 over under and think, that's probably a little too low. And that's why the over is getting overwhelming action if you're looking at that graphic right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's no reason that they have the best quarterback in the league. They're going to have the best defense in the league. They're going to have the most talented on paper recruiting classes in the league. And I mean, Dabo's even embracing the portal a little bit and filling
He
some
is.
spots now, and that's really scary. That should be really scary for the rest of the ACC because those places the last few years where you could find holes, maybe it's not having a dominant receiver, maybe it's not having the right safety or the right linebacker, whatever it might be, you can't really find that anymore because Dabo is now finding ultimate fulfillment and finding the light and seeing that those holes can be filled through the portal.
It's it's hard to poke holes in this team. They've got three returners along the offensive line. That wide receiver core, I think, is finally ready to fully blossom. And I mean, they did a good job last year with a couple of those young guys that came in, TJ Moore and Bryant Wesco Jr. Once they got into the games, man, the passing offense took on another life of its own, and they've got Antonio Williams who's back as well. Klubnik threw for over 3,600 yards. It really felt like he put that team on his back late in the season. Obviously, was kept them involved in the Texas game. The defense couldn't quite keep up with the speed of the Horns late in that one, but Cade Klubnik had himself a dang season last year, and it even still felt like they underachieved, right? I mean, they won the ACC championship game to earn a playoff spot, and it still felt like, no, this team has more in the tank. And I feel like this is the season where we see the full might of what the Clemson Death Star used to be when they were winning national championships and perhaps what they could be. You mentioned they turn to the portal. They get a guy like Will Held from Purdue, an edge rusher that was coveted by everybody. They've got maybe the best linebacker duo in the country in Sammy Brown and Wade Woodaz. The secondary is going to be loaded. I mean, it's really fun. It's hard not to salivate looking at this two deep because there just aren't that many questions on this Clemson roster to me.
You're absolutely right. And I think the big question last year, they finally got out of first gear on offense. That was huge to see, and that
Huge.
answered a lot of questions. The big thing that was surprising, I think, to maybe people outside the program was they did struggle stopping the run a little bit last year. 4.7 yards per carry. It was a step down from what we typically see from a Clemson defense, what we've grown accustomed to. But all those guys last year, there was a really young front seven, and all those
Yeah.
guys have another year of experience, and they are no longer green. And we fully expect a talented group to take the next step forward. So even that, I'm not really that concerned about going into this year. We can talk about their schedule, and it's hard to really like dive deep into different position groups on Clemson because we can, like you said, like even if it's a flaw or maybe one of the worst units on the team, it's probably going to be top 3 or 4 in the conference when you
Yeah.
look at the comparable units on the other teams. So looking at the schedule, they open with LSU, of course. I'm already so excited to watch that game. I'm so thankful that it got picked up to be a night game in the battle of who's the real Death Valley. The only road spots that I'm really interested in are Georgia Tech. That's going to be an interesting trip to Atlanta, at Louisville, and then at South Carolina. But
Yeah.
in the way that this playoff is formatted, we saw them lose to South Carolina last year, and it didn't matter. They were still playing for a spot in the playoff the very next week. So, not to say that that game doesn't matter, because I know the Palmetto Bowl is huge and that bragging rights is massive, and you could potentially knock South Carolina out of the playoff. But if that's the game that I'm circling on the road to worry about, and LSU is the game that I'm circling at home to worry about, neither one of those really matter when it comes to just getting into the playoff. It's kind of just playing for seeding.
Yeah, and I do understand that point of it. I think at least the seating value is valued more this year that now that we got rid of that dumb first round bye for the top 4 conference champions. Now it's just straight seating across the board. So you know point taken. And again, that's one of the drawbacks of all of these the expansion. And gosh, if we might go to 16, there is a point where the big games in the regular season do certainly start to mean a little bit less, unless both teams are on that cutoff point, right? Like unless you have a team that's on the verge of going 10-2 and getting in, or 9-3 and possibly needing somebody else losing control of their destiny to get in.
Well, and I don't. No one will treat them as unimportant. Like we
Sure.
as outside observers can say that those, yeah, logically you could go 8-0 in the ACC, lose your 2 games against SEC opponents, win the ACC championship, and you're in. Of course,
Sure.
but Dabo Swinney's not going to treat it that way, and the coaches
Nope.
on the other side of the ball aren't going to treat it that way. Shane Beamer's going to treat it as a way to knock off South Carolina, even if they're out of the playoff hunt like they were last year. So. Yeah, all that to say, I think that the schedule sets up really nicely for them. Their toughest conference games, I think, are at home. SMU and Duke. I'm really high on Duke. Georgia Tech's really tough as well, but I think those are going to be the 2 toughest matchup wise. Especially if Clemson can take the next step forward in stopping the run. I think that they can probably get past that Georgia Tech game. But I think rather than breaking down the schedule, I'd love to get your take on. We've now previewed every power conference and every G5 conference. The only true bona fide playoff contender we haven't talked about to this point is Notre Dame. But when you consider every team that we've talked about so far, I don't think that there's anyone questioning that Clemson can get in the playoff. How far can they go in that playoff, assuming that they set themselves up nicely with seeding and get some built-in advantages with that?
I think the ceiling is national champion. I really truly believe that this team, in my mind, could win a national championship. They check all of the boxes. You've got a veteran coach who controls his team. Check. You've got the best quarterback in the conference, maybe the best quarterback in the country. Check. You're loaded on the lines of scrimmage, offensive and defensive. Check. You're probably going to have a pretty good running game. I mean, we'll see what Gideon Davidson looks like and what Adam Randall, guys that'll back him up, I think are going to look like. You've got all kinds of talent at the wide receiver position. Your front 7 on defense is disgusting. The secondary is really good. There's not a reason that I look at the X's and O's or the Jimmies and the Joes or the 2 deep and go, yeah, but this is what would hold them back, right? Last year, it felt like that. It felt like the youth, especially on the defense, was the thing that ultimately held them back, and that was what got them beat in Austin. This year, I don't have a reason to doubt them on any of those fronts. Now, maybe the recent track record of losing to SEC teams is concerning. They went 0-3 last year, and it felt like they were outclassed against Georgia. South Carolina just, for whatever reason, seems to have their number right now. And then Texas was just objectively bigger, faster, stronger, and quicker than them. So maybe there's a matchup problem that prevents them from reaching that ceiling. But on paper, I think that this Clemson team is absolutely capable of being the last one standing when it all is said and done.
I'm right there with you, and I think this is a team that is built to make a run, and they have been building towards this season. I've said that several times throughout this preview season, but Clemson has very obviously been building towards the 2025 season, and they've stuck by their guys. When a lot of other coaches would have panicked, maybe tried to find another quarterback in the portal if Cade Klubnik wasn't immediately working out, maybe trying to find, fill a portal class with 20 guys instead of 5 or 6 guys to fill some gaps. Dabo stuck by his guys and knew that 2025 was the year that he had circled on the calendar to be right back in the championship conversation. He was patient, and I think that patience is really going to pay off. We'll see Clemson playing very, very deep into the college football playoff this year.